when it says live on that screen, when it says live on the screen, and I get to welcome in another week of the greatest salesman in the world. He's Robert Hollis. We're going to go to him in just a minute, but let me just thank everybody for jumping on here. And no matter where you be around the world, feel free to comment. You'll be able to ask questions. You'll be able to comment. You can like our page. You can share. You can do reviews on our podcast if you see it today, if you see it tomorrow, YouTube, Facebook, podcast sites around the world. It's going to be a lot of fun to have our guest here today. This is our sixth show, I believe, 6 weeks running. And every single week, I'm so inspired by the unbelievable writings and the feedback that we get from our guests. The greatest salesman in the world, Og Mandino, the first book that was ever put in my hand all those years ago. For me, it was almost 38 years ago to the day. Almost 38 years to the day. And I could not be more thrilled to welcome everybody and to welcome my great friend. And his name is Robert Hollis. I'm here in Idaho. He's there in the beautiful state of Montana. So we got these northern borders covered here. Robert, good day and welcome to The Greatest Salesman. How are you?
I am blessed and highly favored and deeply loved. Dan, thank you so much for inviting me on here. I'm super excited.
I always get those truth bumps when I reach out to friends and I say, tell me about your experience with Og Mandino. And I didn't have to say another word because you went off on the greatest miracle in the world. I don't want to say anything right now about that. I don't want to say anything about your story right now, because what I like to do at the beginning of each show is kind of get a value proposition right at the top of the show for all of our listeners around the globe. So I always like to say, with all the success you have, I like to say you're the greatest CBD sales guy in the world. You're the greatest entrepreneur in the world. You're the greatest salesman in the world. But give us 3 things, if you could, that shape your thoughts, your minds, your day, each and every day.
Well, Dan, again, I'm so humbled to be on here. And even as you said those things, I was like, nah, that's got to be somebody else. But the 3 things is, I tell people all the time, I put my slippers under my bed. So when I get out of bed, I got to get on my knees to get them. Very, very important for me to, thank God for the incredible breath that I'm taking and just an amazing gratefulness for another day to live my best day ever. And right after I do a lot of gratitude and mostly for me, it's, I don't pray for myself. I pray for others. And that really fulfills me and gives me peace. And then the next thing I do is I immediately got to plug into something on personal development. And, some of the things we'll be talking about today, especially the greatest miracle in the world later, is something that just refuels me constantly. And the thing at being 58 today, 58 this year, is it's bizarre to me that whole concept that if you read something, you're reading it as the different person, that it actually, brings something back out in you that is for you at this point in your life. And then this is going to sound simple to people, but once I learn something, the third thing I do is I got to share that wisdom with people that I don't know. I only have to make a couple of posts, one in a group and one on my personal social medias to get to the people that are following me. My deal is every day I got to go to the ends of the earth to speak to people that I've never met before and see if I can't find some ears to hear. So those are the 3 things, and they serve me well.
Oh my goodness. I can't wait to get the feedback from people, because I think that, in the great book of Daniel, he talks about praying 3 times a day, and certainly to start the day off the way you do. I love that, putting your slippers underneath your bed so you got to get on your knees. That is truly, I don't know that I've ever heard anybody say it that way, because I start my day that way too, but I walk from one room to the other where I don't wake my wife up because I start the day a couple hours before. But I really love that. And I think Og would love that, because he was such an unbelievable, intuitive human being when it came to addressing deity. And he just seemed like there was never a moment in his life when it wasn't a reverence towards deity. I mean, his writings are a reverent writing. And
Yep.
so thank you for sharing that. I always love starting off with those three things. And then, of course, personal development that's what the show's about. That's what OG was about. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm just mesmerized when I think about the millions of people that have read the writings. I mean, it was a unique philosophy, a unique way of writing that no one's really ever matched. And you reread the book just today. Give us your thoughts. Maybe the first time you read the book, and then in rereading the book.
Well, I know we'll talk about this later, but it was very interesting that my mentor, when he met me, that I couldn't have been at the lowest of lows, and because I was the lowest at lows, that was the story that I felt needed to be shared. So when someone said, "Hey, how are you?" You wished you didn't ask, because I would tell you that. I've been on unemployment. I mean, at workman's comp. I've been injured. I couldn't get money as a mechanic. I lost all my relationships. Repo man's chasing me around. And so I had this really negative thing. And according my childhood too, was like, oh, it's just so awful. And so my mentor immediately said to me, he said, "Will you do what I tell you?" And I said, "Yeah." And it was perfect timing, totally humbled. And he said, "I want you to go to a bookstore and get The Greatest Miracle in the World by Og Mandino. And he said, when you're done reading it, I want you to call me." And I just thought, golly, I'm not going to get another second of this guy's time unless I do that one thing. Wow. And I look back now with the wisdom and just go, God, he probably told every person that, but I did it. And he could recognize in me immediately, Dan, that self-confidence, self-esteem, belief in myself, believing that I sort of was dealt a bad hand. If I had a philosophy, it was pretty awful. It was like, Dan, I would try to hurt you because when you hurt me back, then we were even. And just this ugly, ugly, ugly place. And because I had that attitude, it reflected in my relationships with my girlfriend at the time, which now is my wife, my children, everything. So it was like, it was a pretty bad deal. So when I read this book this morning, I just told myself, there's no way I'm going to get on the show without reading this again. I then remembered immediately that once I read The Greatest Miracle of the World and then went through the 100 days of reading the God Memorandum, that I then seeked out every book that Odd had written. And so when I was reading this, I went, I remember reading this. And lo and behold, for the fourth scroll to be about your nature's greatest miracle, it got me to fall in love with myself. It got me to proclaim my uniqueness. It got me to stop comparing myself with others. It really, really got me to that point of Kaizen, of just every day a continued better person than I was before. And I just found this out recently, Dan, that John Maxwell stuff, I was never ever, when the student's ready, the teacher appears. Yep. And he recently wrote this book, The Rule of Five or something. And I thought, oh, you better find out. It said, you better find out what motivates people. Because if you don't, you're not going to be able to motivate them. And I go, I definitely have heard this stuff. No, I was wrong. And I found out the thing that motivates me that people look at and can't understand is progress. For me, I need to be gooder and gooder and gooder. So it's this internal process that I have in myself of progress, of wanting to outdo what I've done in the past. It's not about anybody else. It's about me being a better father, a better friend, a better husband, a better leader. Just work on me.
It's interesting because I love the answer, because you realize that between the two of us, we talk to tens of thousands of people a week, and how many people simply might look at the greatest salesman in the world and say, really? Just those simple little scrolls? I mean, I want to be like Robert. I want to be the greatest salesman in the world. Just give me the money.
That's amazing. I want to be like Dan.
Well, I mean, people say, just give me the money and then I'll work on me, right?
Oh,
But you hit bottom. Og hit bottom. Og had a
yeah.
problem with the bottle. I mean, I had no self-esteem, no self-worth. Everybody finds that. I mean, like one of my mentors talks to me, you got to find people that are at high noon. They're at noon. They're at straight up 12 o'clock. They're ready for all the wisdom. So when you read it today and you had that intuition, I really love what you said about learning to love yourself. It's not something we talk about a lot,
No.
but that's an empowering self-worth value, because then you don't need to feel like you're better than someone else.
No. And the other thing is all the stuff that you feel you want in life, you no longer want. I justified my being as I just wish I could get my father and my mother to want me as a child. I was abandoned and ended up in foster care and an orphan. And all I wanted, regardless if I knew who they were, I just wanted approval. God, if I could just get approval, if I could just get people that would love me and for just who I am. And I realized that because I didn't love myself, I could never attract that.
Wow.
I could never attract, I couldn't love somebody because I didn't love me, So I was always this person. If you find yourself or find people that watch this, if you constantly find yourself sabotaging things, it's because you don't love yourself. It gets to a point mentally in your mind where you say the stupid stuff that you shouldn't say. Wow, things are going so great right now, Dan. Something bad's got to happen. And it's a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yep.
So I'd rather break off this relationship or do something so awful that they tell me I don't want to be around you no more, so I can say, I was right. Another person kicked me to the curb because it was a self-fulfilling prophecy for me.
So what that leads me to believe is that you have a very unique perception of optimism.
Oh, man. Yeah.
Tell me about that. Where do you think that stems from?
Well, it went from the opposite when I learned that I was a miracle. And regardless of your religious belief, we just know that there was a creator. You know what I mean? And he created for us to create. And so I found myself in a position where, it's hard to move forward when you don't have anything to look forward to. And so I spent too much time about worrying about, way days ahead and always being upset because of all the ways that people hurt me in the past that I couldn't let go. No forgiveness whatsoever. So I didn't know how to look forward to my future.
Wow.
And when I learned that I was the creator of that future, it was empowering. And so now I look at the stuff that I've created, Dan, and I know that I'm far from done. I know that you probably have heard or seen the studies of Bob Proctor. And recently I was on an inner circle call with him, and he was saying that he was so excited that he finally paid off his party. And I go, party? What are you talking about? You just turned 86. And he's no, I'm my party for my 100th birthday party. I'm having it at the Bellagio in Las Vegas, and I just paid it off. And I'm going like, who plans their 100th birthday party? When you hang around people that are optimistic like that, they're so looking for the future. They live for the future. And it's only like I can imagine that people looked at Jesus and just went, man, why is this guy so jacked out of his mind all the time? He's so optimistic. Is because he knew what the future was.
Yes. And still does.
Yeah, it still does.
Wow, that's a powerful metaphor that you just shared. And I got these amazing feelings when I called you, because I know you have thousands and thousands of people that sell your products with you.
Yes.
And thousands and thousands of people that share your opportunity with you.
Very blessed.
What I remember on that phone call when we connected last month was just how directive you are for someone that you sponsor into your world for them to get your time. Talk to us about now that greatest miracle, if you will.
Well, one of the things that I realized immediately is that, even in the book that we're talking about that you sent me, is that you see a story of basically always an individual that's watching the greatest salesman in the world from afar, but they're quiet and they're diligently listening to while that person's talking to other people. And they only imagine what it would be like to actually be mentored by that individual.
Yeah.
Well, Dan, you and I were both in that position at one time when we first even thought about being an entrepreneur. For me, there's no way I could spell it. And I never heard the word, you know what I mean? So, you just work for somebody else. And now all of a sudden, when they tell me I can't be a mechanic anymore and I lost my identity, I didn't realize how much I wrapped around my beliefs and my identity of who I was at that moment in time. And it takes somebody that has already wrought that path to look at you, Dan, and go, listen, man, I know what I'm talking about, and you got what it takes. Mm-hmm. You 100% got what it takes. Really? There's only two things that I did really great in my life. And as a laborer, and my uncle, one time I met my uncle, everybody said he was the wealthiest uncle that we had in our family. And he said to me, he goes, wow, you're really good with your hands. Mm-hmm. He goes, you're good. Did you build those bicycles? Did you fix that motorcycle? And he goes, yeah. And he goes, you're really good with your hands. You should be a mechanic. And I can't remember, Dan, anyone ever telling me I was good at anything. Mm. So, wham, went down that path until it was no longer serving. You know what I mean? I lost my passion for what I was great at because I never ever stopped doing it. You know what I mean? I didn't see a way for it to. And so I believe now, looking back, like most people can, is that everything that happens to you, good or bad, is a blessing. I don't know how I could have ever opened up my mind enough if I wasn't humbled for that 9 months, losing everything. Mm. And I remember sitting on a panel one time, and it got to like 4 or 5 people, and every one of them were talking about how bad their life was, to almost homelessness. And the speaker took the microphone away from me before I spoke, and he said, I just want everyone to know, you don't have to be homeless or end up in jail to all of a sudden have an awakening to being an entrepreneur. Yeah. And I thought, wow, if I got a chance to tell my story, I was also in line with the rest of these people. And so I just pray that everyone that listens to this message can believe in an optimism where they're the greatest miracle in the world and they're the greatest salesman in the world, and just use that to say that if it's for them, it's for me. You don't have to get down to zero like Dan and I for you to open up your ears to hear, to open up to say, I'm not living another day like this for the rest of my life. I need to change something.
I'm just sitting here kind of going, the world gets to hear this for free? This is the greatest salesman in the world sharing the journey. I mean, it's like Og says on the audio, life was a living hell for 10 years. Oh. And when people go through that and come out the other end, they're the most genuine, authentic people in the world because they can speak to it like you're speaking.
Yep. I tell people the difference between religious people and spiritual people is that religious people are scared of hell and spiritual people have been through hell. So when people tell me how awful their life is, I said, wow, it sounds like you're living in hell right now. And they go, yeah, I am. And I go, stop looking around and start moving. Go through hell. Don't stop there and just go, oh my God, my life's a living hell. Move. Yeah. Just get out of it, just move out of it. So then you can be able, when people tell you the story, it's like that classic line, you can't con a con man. That's right. You know what I mean? Because the con man was a con man. He's going like, I've heard this story before. I used to tell this story before. So that's the same with me with misery. That's the same with me with, oh, woe is me, and being a victim. And it's crazy how you can go from being a victim to a survivor. And there's one more step, a victor.
Yes.
I just got chills everywhere.
Well, I'm writing that down because I think of Viktor Frankl. When I see that Viktor Frankl and man's search for meaning. But before I go any further, I just want to say what Stephen McNeil is saying on the screen right now. Wow. I mean, this is one of my great friends, one of the great contributors to his community, amazing father. I mean, here's Daramola, if I said it right, Joshua. And I just want to say, let me pause for a minute. If anyone doesn't know Robert Hollis, you simply go to Google and type in Robert Hollis. You go to Facebook, type in Robert Hollis. You go to Twitter, type in Robert Hollis. If you want to connect with Robert Hollis, that's how you do it. If you want to have that kind of guy in your circle of friendships, do that. If you want to go through all of these things and emotions that he just spoke of, if you want to not just read The Greatest Salesman, not just read The Greatest Miracle, but study, give your life to the study of the miracle and become the person, then I want my producer, if she could right now, to put up on the screen. Take our assessment. It's free. It's a $99 value. I'm going to give it to you for free. It'll just align your thoughts to give you an idea. If you go to habitfinder.com/act now, we literally can measure your thoughts in 15 minutes, not what you're thinking, but how, and put it in alignment with what Robert said here. If we could put that up on the screen or someone could type it in. There it is right there, habitfinder.com/act now. Since the Og Mandino Company does sponsor the show, I certainly want to get that little plug in there because it's true. And that's the reality. If it wasn't truth and we're standing on a soapbox and we're asking for millions of dollars to get our training and our time, different story. We're here to teach truth, teach principles. But let's go back for a minute if we could.
Sure.
That conversation we had. Tell me about how that process looks for you when you make all those people read that book. How do those conversations go?
Well, mostly when people do read the book and they call me back, then, it's a lot of sobbing. It's really a lot of sobbing. And the reason why is in a millisecond, this book just made me realize, and I know this is going to sound negative, but I was just so upset at myself for not realizing my value and my gratefulness.
Man, I love that.
And so in a blink of an eye, this book allowed me to, like I'm taking some lines, but, I get to hear the words, I love you. I get to hear a baby laugh. I get to hear other people laugh. I get to hear music. I get to see a baby smile. I get to see the blues of the skies, the stars, I get to say the words, I love you. I get to tell people, listen, if no one's ever given you permission to succeed in life, let Dan and I be one of the first. And so, when you really start thinking about, your ability to feel and your ability to touch, and what it did for me, Dan, is the book allowed me in the God Memorandum just to very simply, and for those of you that think that it's religious, it's not. It just really comes down to the point of making you realize the things that you should be grateful for so you can open up the things to allow you to get more. I didn't realize that whining and complaining about how awful my life was, isn't it the words, Dan, that whether you believe in the law of attraction or not, it's happening. And so you get these people that say, oh my God, bad things happen in threes. And everything's going so great, there's bound to be something that's going to happen. And, this is not going to last forever. And you just sit there and go, wow, you're saying that with declaration out of your mouth. It's like, wow, and so I needed to tell a different story. I needed to say different words out of my mouth. And when I started saying, man, I'm a miracle, I'm unique, there's no one like me. And I get to be the best version of me every single day. Yeah. And I'm going to speak to those that have ears to hear it. I'm going to get this wisdom to them. And so when they reach out to me after they read the book, that's the same thing. They're immediately humbled. And instead of feeling sorry for themselves, they now feel like they're a miracle. They're a creation. And even the people that sort of fall off the wagon, you and I know people that say they love personal development, but then I ask them what day they're on. They'll call me, oh my God, my day's bad, da 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 da. My business is not going, all this Christ stuff. And I just say, what day are you on? And I've been blessed to help 59 people now make over $1 million in commissions. Wow. And it's funny because one of them, Melody, every time she jumps on there, I can say, what day are you on? And everyone will go, what are you talking about? And I said, so you didn't finish the 100 days in a row. Or in this book, you didn't finish the 10 scrolls, reading them once 30 days in a row. So what is that? 10 times 30, that's another year.
Yep.
Another year of reading it. And they go, what are you talking about? Melody will raise her hand. You know what I mean? And I go, what day? And she'll say, like, 1254. You know what I mean? And I'm like, so I met her like about the same time I met you, Dan. And she's still reading the God Memorandum every night before she goes to bed.
Wow. I mean, would you do me a favor? Do me a favor. For those that are listening, just say it a little slower one more time. How many people you've helped make $1 million?
59.
59 people. And you start them off with the same way, the greatest miracle in the world. And, I wanted to draw a parallel to this because isn't it interesting how success leaves clues?
Yes.
And we can go back to, where did Og get the inspiration to give us daily reading assignments? Well, in his original Greatest Salesman, Greatest Secret, which is the journalized version, he would list his favorite 10 books in the back. And
wow.
he learned that philosophy from none other than Ben Franklin and his 13 virtues that he practiced for 60 years of his life.
Wow.
So anyone that wants a shortcut, it didn't happen for Ben Franklin. It didn't happen for Og. It didn't happen for you. It didn't happen for me. I mean, isn't that a success leaves clues, truth bumps, like just every hair on my arm standing up?
Yeah. Dan, I say something to people as I go, what's your favorite song? And I know some people will go, I don't know, or favorite movie. And I go, okay, so if that's your favorite song or your favorite movie, give me a line out of that song. Give me a line out of that movie. And they'll like rattle it. And I'm going, give me a line out of this.
Yes.
Give me a line out of this. Why is it that someone can remember the birthday song, or they can hear plop, plop, fizz, fizz, and everyone goes, oh, what a relief it is. That doesn't tell me that you're spending a lot of time focusing on listening to commercials when you're young. What is the real thing? Coca-Cola. So, you didn't say that you were going to learn these things, but it's obvious that your subconscious picked it up because it heard it over and over and over again. But yet you won't out loud read the scrolls like they tell you to do it, so that you know it in your head, you know it in your mouth, you know it in your heart. And what's that phrase that it says, so a man speaketh, so is he?
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people that are watching this right now that if we followed you around and recorded everything that came out of your mouth, you would not be surprised why you are where you are. I wanted to remember this by heart. I wanted to be able to read this and say it by heart. And now it's like I proclaim my greatness. You know what I mean? When I read Scroll, I got her 5, 6, 7. I had to write it down.
Okay.
If anyone knows me really well, and I read Scroll 7, and it's like, I will laugh at the world.
Oh, so good.
My God, that's me. No one, it takes, I'm the opposite man I was 33 years ago. I was the guy that would catch you in a glimpse, usually with a couple of drinks, that said, what are you staring at? Provoking a fight or provoking some kind of resistance. I would say today that my sons and my family watch me, and someone can do something like cut me off or like response is laughter. It's like, why am I laughing? Because It makes me sad in a way, but I'm seeing the old me. It makes me sad that I'm going, oh my God, that guy is so clueless. He's like, he's so clueless, she or he. And I see people still getting mad at these people. They go, well, what if you're trying to connect with someone on Facebook and all of a sudden they come out and say you're scamming and they're going to turn you over to the FTC or the FBI? I laugh. I really, truly go, oh my Lord. You know, I just pray for them. I just ask that you just touch their heart and soften it so they can get a message. And I usually, by someone insulting me, I give them a gift.
Yeah. And you know, it's interesting. I remember being in a room with Jim Rohn, and I can't remember what stage or what city back in the day with Jim Rohn. And he said, when people cut me off, he would just kind of make a joke to his wife. He'd say, just laugh like you did and say, I used to be like you. Yeah. It's just, you have so many amazing qualities. And I think your friend that's on with us here too, I didn't see his name or how to say it. Is it Daramola?
Joshua Daramola from Nigeria.
Joshua might be on the show one day with The Greatest Salesman because he's under 59. I mean, I got to touch base with Joshua. This is beautiful. So I want to go back to that scroll for a minute because
please. 6
weeks, no one has mentioned I will laugh at the world. But you said something that Og says also, I get to laugh at myself.
Oh my God, we're hilarious. I'll even tell you something that happened to me really recently that will prove to everyone in the world, if you thought I was perfect, I'll give you a quick story. I'm not, right? And what happened is I just hit the top position of my company. And they had this deal, Dan, like other companies, where you got to maintain it for 3 months in a row. And I, confused in my mind, wasn't counting the month that I hit it. And I was going, okay, so I did it in April, so May, June, July. And then all of a sudden, in the middle of July, I was looking at my numbers and they didn't look close. And I really got myself into a depression. I actually got myself in going, oh my God, I'm going to have to start over. And every awful thought that I could think about, I was putting on myself. I could feel the stress. I had an anxiety attack. I had to go outside and breathe. And I'm just like going, what am I doing? And all of a sudden I went in and I surrender. Sometimes I don't do it right away, but I surrender. And they're just like, how can I make this better? That was something that, how can I make this better? You know, please, I'll be quiet. How can I make this better? And immediately it came to me. You're going for master affiliate, the next position. You're not trying to maintain a position. You're trying to get to the next position. And all of a sudden I started looking, I don't need to do 34,000 a day. I got to do 167,000 a day. I got to do $5 million a month, not $1 million a month. As soon as I switched that, then my focus was on helping other people get to where I am. And the number switched immediately. It was like, you know, I know that you've been there, Dan, where you sort of go, I'm sort of good at this manifestation stuff. Yeah. I should manifest more. I'm still thinking too small. You know what I mean? And so and then I thought, wow, I used to do that every day of my life, Dan.
Wow. You know, I'm struck by that because I just re-listened to Earl Schoaf the other night, Jim Rohn's.
Oh man, I love that audio.
And what you're talking about is how he was guiding and coaching people in the 60s. Don't just tell people you want to be around a lot of money. You got to be so specific to every aspect of the amount of money and what it is you want, the amount of people you want to touch, the lives you want to influence, become the person. And he just gave this a story of the lady that wanted to have a pile of money. Yeah. And she found herself 6 months later working at a bank as a teller. So don't just say you want to be around a pile of money. You want to earn that money. You want to become that person. That is fantastic what you just shared. He's Robert Hollis. If you're joining us late, he's the greatest salesman in the world. I have never had this discussion with you because we know each other from social media. We've had some conversations over the years. We've never worked together. But the depth of this dialogue and contribution that you're giving people, I'm so grateful for, because I just don't know, and you don't know,
No.
whose life is going to be touched a year or 6 years from now, 7 years, watching on a podcast and say, I wonder who Robert Hollis is, the greatest CBD salesman in the world. And it's just an awesome thing. So
Thank you, Dan.
let me just say, if I can just do this, I want to review your 3 things.
Okay.
Because it kind of brings the entire unique philosophy of writing and teaching and coaching and living the way Og lived. It was the foreword to the book from W. Clement Stone that talked about how this unique philosophy of living and selling and contributing is contributing to tens of thousands and millions of lives.
Yeah.
So you start on your knees. Og says, today I begin a new life every day, right?
Yep.
First scroll. Today I begin a new life.
First scroll.
You say, I want to remember these words, not from a movie or a plop, plop, fizz, fizz, but it's funny that you said that, because I was so lacking in the word love for my life at 19. I memorized that I will greet this day with love in my heart. For muscle can split a shield and even destroy life, but only the unseen power of love can open the hearts of men. And until I master this art, I will remain no more than a peddler in the marketplace. And so those words are my go-to, kind of my protection scripture, if you will.
Yes.
It's to greet the day with love. It's to give love. It's to serve others. And so for you to start on your knees, I just want to say that's a contribution. I hope that our listeners really appreciate that. And then to plug in immediately, as Og would say, 3 times a day with the scrolls, the God memorandum each and every day, morning, noon, and night, Daniel doing his prayers 3 times a day, whatever you want to say it.
Right.
But then to share wisdom with strangers. I get so fired up from meeting strangers.
Yes.
I mean, this quarantine thing is so foreign, because we need this human connection. I mean, kids need it. You need it. I need it. Husbands, wives, spouse. We need to be around to serve, contribute, to help churches, communities, food banks, whatever. Network marketing, of course.
Yes.
Those are 3 things. I cannot imagine how anyone would ever think of those 3. That's you. That's Robert Hollis. You own that.
Thank you. Thank you. And Dan, for you to reach out to me, I knew that I would get to speak to those that I haven't gotten ears to speak. And I knew that you and I were 2 or more are gathered. There he is in the midst. I knew that there was going to be wisdom that I get to go through and watch on this podcast. You've been in a situation like me, and it was fun talking to your assistant, Miramar, when we got started. And she goes, well, Dan just gets in and just goes. You know what I mean? And it's because you trust the guidance.
Yeah.
You trust the guidance. And I've come off stages and I've had people look at me weird, the sound guys, and they come off and they're like staring at me with their mouth wide open, and I take the sound off and I'll look at them and they go, I go, can I get a recording of that? And they go, yeah, sure. Why? And I go, because that stuff was awesome. And they're like looking at me like, well, that stuff. And I said, no, but I was in the pocket. I prayed before I got on stage, and I surrendered, and just basically asked for me to give the words for those that have ears to hear. And that was some great stuff. So I know that some people will listen to this and go, now Dan and Robert are way off the rockers.
That's great. That's so great, because Mark Hughes used to teach me in Herbalife when I was 19 years old that Johnny Carson would get off the stage every show and rewatch how his hands moved, how he looked at the audience. You're doing the same thing that Johnny Carson did, the greatest talk show host of all time. So,
but it's the stuff, Dan, that you and I have dedicated to remembering and making it part of our spirit and our soul, that you just keep compounding that information on top of itself, and then your version comes out.
Yes. Oh.
So I just get to stand on the shoulders of mentors that became for me, and some of them I had live, and some of them were virtual. I want to tell you a quick story before we end. Okay. 9 of those 59 people that I've helped create millionaires own their own network marketing companies. Joven being one. So I met Joe, and when he was brand new, he was like mixing paint at a hardware store, and he fell in my path. And so he was one of these people I did this to. So the other two are the owners of ACN, very large, I guess 27, 28 years old. And I was teaching the identical twins, Mike and Tony Kupas, and I was talking to them about the greatest miracle in the world and just really pouring into them. And we come flying down a road, freeway in Detroit, Michigan. And all of a sudden there was this big wreck in front of us, and the trucks, are all out there, fire trucks and stuff. And they made us go off the freeway. It was stuck. And so I got up and I went, okay, we'll just go that way. We're going that direction. So I went across, the freeway, the overpass. And then I found my first road and started going right again. And I started going and I said, listen, we'll just get close. I don't remember what meeting we were going to. And then all of a sudden the road was stopped again. And it's like, well, everybody else thought of this. So you're getting that many cars off the freeway. And it was obvious we were not going to make this meeting. It's obvious. So I sort of surrendered, and I could see Tony and Mike going, oh my God, we're supposed to be there. Who's going to do this? People are going to be mad at us. And they just started conjuring all this stuff up, right? And I said, listen, it is what it is. I don't know why we're here, but it is what it is.
Right.
And I pulled around a corner, and on this giant sign, it says, Og Mandino speaks tonight.
What?
I swear. And I looked up and I went, and it was a church or something that he was speaking at. And I pulled in the parking lot. We got in. He just got introduced. And I got to see Og Mandino speak live. Wow. And he only spoke for like 10, 15 minutes. And it just ripped the heart out of my chest. And I know that I experienced that when other people didn't, because of how much dedication. He changed my life. I was looking at someone that altered and changed my life forever because he was disciplined and sat down and wrote these books. And I got to see him live. And so for me to meet him and get to see him and the ways that I found out about it.
Yeah.
It was like,
and you acted on it.
So divine, divine. And I think that what Albert Einstein says it best, that every day you can get up, you can think that nothing's a miracle, or you can think that everything's a miracle. Yeah. And when you live from miracle to miracle to miracle to miracle, this is a freaking fun life.
Well, you're displaying that. It's on full display right now. I got a couple more questions. I hope you.
No, I'm here for you.
Because you mentioned the mentor thing, and it's interesting how Og found a mentor inside The Greatest Miracle. And I'm just sitting there and I'm thinking, Simon Potter, that rag picker. And here he goes over to his apartment and he looks at his bookshelves and he calls those groupings of books the Hand of God books. That is what you acted on.
Yeah.
Divine moving you off the road. You're going to miss the meeting. You go to church and voila, you've got a lifetime of memories. You can always do another meeting.
Yeah, absolutely. And after we got out of that meeting, I think it was only like a half hour. We missed everything but his speech. And it was done. The guy came out and we exited. As soon as we pulled out of the parking lot, nobody on the road. I mean, so we got there. We ended up only being a half hour late, for the entire meeting. And guess what? They were there. They were waiting on us. And I think this comes back to probably a couple of times in your life, Dan, where people are like, "Oh my God, we're going to be late," and they go, "Nah, I'm speaking. They're going to be there when I get there." Not that you're being, pompous or ego or anything, but everything happens for a reason. It really, really does.
Yeah. So let me conclude by just sharing a few of Og's words in that last scroll you mentioned, number 7, and then I'll let you speak to the audience in closing to what you might, if they were your newest best friend, Let's close with your invitation to them on the personal development journey. But Og says this: to enjoy success at the end of that scroll, I must have happiness, and laughter will be the maiden who serves me. I will be happy. I will be successful. I will be the greatest salesman the world has ever known.
Amen.
Robert Hollis is the greatest salesman on our podcast show today. Share a few thoughts in closing to somebody that would be brand new coming into your circle.
Dan, first of all, this has been such a blessing for me. It really, really has. And I love the accolades, but bottom line, I wouldn't get to speak to those that have ears to watch this video now live or recorded and from the years on if, Dan, you wasn't disciplined and just did what we all find uncomfortable. I can still in my mind, I'm going, I should start a podcast. If I had a lot of money for every time I said that should have been done years ago. So for you to step up and do this and ask me to be on here, I just love your heart, and I've always followed you. I love your wisdom to everyone, and I just wanted to get that out. For those of you that are brand new, it really comes down to what things that you tell yourself. So if everyone right now, to me, you're telling a past story or a future story that doesn't make you feel worthy, doesn't make you feel good. And more than anything, I've gotten down to just one word, the 6 essential needs that we have in our life. You know what I mean? And the 2 that are on the spiritual side is growth and contribution. It's growth and contribution. So what I've done with people is I say, if these books are not part of who you are, where every day you read part of it and you go, I gotta get this to people, not your product, not your business, you speak to those that have ears to hear by first giving. The law of reciprocity. You give, and there's these things that people don't quite understand is people don't care what you know unless they know that you care. And I don't know a faster way of making someone understand that I care than during these times. I've reached out to total strangers and said, I hope this message finds you blessed and safe during these uncertain times. And I just want to know if there's anything I can do to serve you. And most of them come back and say, thank you. Or they'll say, how can you serve me? And I say, listen, there was a couple of things that my mentors gave me in very uncertain times. Wow. And I just believe that these words can change the way you think, which will change the way you feel, which will change what happens in your life. They work for me. They can work for you. And so, my constant thing is if you lead with people, whether you get them in your business or they buy product or refer you to anyone, what if you're just consistently planting seeds? Yeah. And just knowing that the books that changed you will change other people. Now, does that mean it changes everybody? No, because there is a decision that happens. And the decision happens before you get the book. So my mentor said, hey, please help me. Robert, go get this book. And I thought to myself, if people that make millions and millions and millions of dollars are telling me to get a book, I need to get the damn book. You know what I mean? And I want to make him, there was I looking for approval, right, Dan? So I'm going, listen, I'm not a good reader. I can't even remember a book that I read before this one. Wow. I'm going to make this guy proud. And I'm going to read this book and I'm going to give him a call back. And I knew that if I called him back and said that I read the book, he was going to ask me some questions. I knew it. And I didn't want to say, I read the book, but I didn't retain that part. As I was going through the scrolls again of the greatest salesman, I wanted to know which each one was. I will persist until I succeed. I will act now. I will laugh at the world. I will live this day like it's my last. I knew that I didn't want to get on this interview with you and pretend that I read the book. And there's too many people out there right now that are pretending. They're posing. You know what I mean? And what you need to do is you need to humble yourself and go back to the start and relearn, grow. And when you grow, you're going to get excited because you're going to want to share that with others. Why do I share with strangers? Because people that are close to me won't listen. They're not, the student's not ready. So people can watch my wealth increase. They can watch my biggest claim to fame, other than 59 people, is that I now support over 2,500 orphans. And so people say, what drives you? 2,600, 2,700, 10,000. You know, Jim Rohn left us, and this is what I can leave with your people. I knew Jim Rohn really well. And on, you know, when he started to fall on, you know, really bad times, I can remember him. I just said to him, I don't know how I can tell you how grateful I am for your teaching. And he says, Robert, don't forget, you died twice in your life. And I go, died twice. He goes, you're going to take your last breath and your body's going to disappear. And he goes, the second time you die is when no one else says your name anymore. Make sure that people keep talking about you and saying your name. Wow. And I just went, that goes from being independent, being dependent to interdependent. Wow, there is another level, interdependence. Yeah. And you guys are getting this wisdom, and Dan reaches out to me, pulls me on here. And what is this costing you? If it cost you nothing, then at least act on the wisdom. At least make an action and act now. Get these books and read them and study them and study them and study them and study them. So someone can say to you, what's scroll 9? Act now. So again, Dan, I want to thank you so much for allowing me to take that habit finder. I found it extremely illuminating. I think it was amazing. Yeah. And I didn't know that you were going to allow people to take it for free.
Oh, yeah.
And so, you know, for two guys to jump on here that know there's other things bigger in life, we want people to not ever forget your name. You want to make a difference in people's lives, for your family, your children, your great-grandchildren. You want to change your family tree. Change it with wisdom. Change it with wisdom and give them something that they can act on, like the scrolls, so they can turn around and change their world.
Well, friends that have been paying attention and listening and taking notes, and you're going to get a chance to replay it on YouTube, replay it on Facebook, replay it on our podcast sites. I know the value of these 52 minutes has been off the charts, because he is the greatest salesman in the world. Now, let me just say, when you, the listener, read The Greatest Miracle and The Greatest Salesman, you will find there's very few techniques to sales in these books.
Yes.
You will find depth about being a better person in every aspect of your life that will make you just like Simon Potter. Boy, oh boy. What a day. Thank you so much, Robert, Blanca, Stefan, all of our friends, Micah, Joshua, people that commented throughout the live show today. He's Robert Hollis. He's in Montana. I'm Dan McCormick from Idaho here. And I hope you go out and make it the greatest day of your life, because Og said that in the book multiple times. You too can become the greatest salesman in the world, the greatest miracle in the world. Have the greatest day of your life. Back next week with another amazing Greatest Salesman show. Thank you for now, Robert. Be well.
Thank you, Dan. Love you, man.